Hello everyone, this is Saurabh Sharma. Welcome to Vijayata IAS Academy. Let's start with the current affairs of 20th January 2022. And in the topic we have the NCSK. This is important because these commissions sometimes are asked in prelims, and you will definitely be needing them while answering the social issues questions. And there this National Commission for Safai Karamcharis, because we almost have one question directly or indirectly related to vulnerable section, weaker section upliftment, schemes for them, institutions working in this field, inclusive society, poverty, and related aspects. So in this context, this question is important, this topic is important. That what does it say? The Union Cabinet chaired by PM has approved the extension of the tenure of National Commission for Safai Karamcharis for 3 years beyond 31/3/2022. That means till 31/3/2025 it will be working and it will be remaining active. This is important. This National Commission is very important. Let's see how is it important. The National Commission for Safai Karamcharis are those who are actually helping in the cleaning activities, and these are also including those who were engaged or somehow engaged in manual scavenging, sewage cleaning, and other hazardous things cleaning, where manual cleaning activities are still dominating this scope of work. The NCSK was established in the year 1993. Let me just rub some here so that you can actually view it clearly. So this was established in 1993 as per the provisions of the NCSK Act 1993. Please remember this act because you need to mention these acts while writing your mains. The NCSK Act ceased to have effect from 29/2/2004. After that, the tenure of the NCSK has been extended as a non-statutory body from time to time through resolutions. So it was from 2004, now it is working as a non-statutory body. So that means National Commission for Safai Karamchari is not a statutory body. That means it is not having a parliamentary backup, or it is not formed with the parliament laws or acts. Now since 2004 it is not working as, because earlier it was an act, so hence it was a statutory body, but now it is not a statutory body. Its continuation is depending upon the resolution, so hence it is a non-statutory body. The NCSK has been giving its recommendations to the government, recommendations, and always remember that all the recommendations given by the commissions, they are mostly just recommendatory in nature, not binding in nature. No binding, no. The government regarding specific programs for welfare of Safai Karamcharis, study and evaluate the existing welfare programs for Safai Karamcharis, investigate cases of specific grievances, etc. Also, as per the provisions of the Prohibition of Employment as Manual Scavengers and the Rehabilitation Act 2013, the NCSK has been assigned the work to monitor the implementation of the Act. Tender, that means NCSK is monitoring what? This prohibition of employment, prohibition of employment as manual scavengers and their rehabilitation. So they are also looking after this field. The NCSK has been assigned the work to monitor the implementation of the Act, tender advice for its effective implementation to the center and state governments, and inquire into complaints regarding contravention, non-implementation of the provisions of the Act. Now, This is okay, that fine, all these provisions we have, and this is NCSK is doing, and this is the Prohibition for Manual Scavenging Act. But now, isn't this a social evil in the country? Isn't it maintaining the structure of caste division in the country, where the clear division between the general, OBCs, SC and ST categories are clearly shown in the country? That means these divisions are, or these separations are structured, and the governing institutions are basically religion, and based on religion we have this caste institutions, which is also working as a structure, and based on the caste the occupations are assigned, which are also the structured form of division is created in Indian society, and based on that structure the institution of discrimination is well established. And where not you are seeing this discrimination and division, you just see any newspaper's matrimonial section. There people are clearly writing their choice from where they are looking for bride or groom. You are seeing that in many aspects. For example, in the jobs, in the name of providing reservations, the SC, ST, OBC, general category, all the things are clearly seen. I'm not saying that this is not good or reservation is bad. I'm just saying that anyhow, even if the government is trying to reduce or delete this error of discrimination present in Indian society, but in a way, through our actions only, we are reinforcing it back to the society. Because after the reservation, many people have actually been able to give a positive change to their lives. That is true, absolutely recommendable and commendable job. But here, when the aspects of reservations are being seen as a package itself, where lesser marks can get you job, where the so many relaxations can get you job, this institution of discrimination based on caste and social hierarchy, it is not taking the name of going out of the society. That is the problem. Very rationally, this policy of reservation actually started for 10 years initially, and there is a provision that this policy of reservation that will be continuing for 10 years at a time, and after the end of the 10 years one review should be taken, and then it should be decided accordingly whether we need this continuation or not. That is fine. But when this thing is specially continuing, that means there is some problem. Anyways, this topic is not about reservation, so we won't be talking much about this. But this Safai Karamcharis, manual scavengers, are mostly coming from the lowest social hierarchy, that is scheduled caste. And this hierarchy or this work has actually forced them to do, because here the modern equipments, scientific ways of cleaning and treatments, etc., even if it is coming, even if the services of these equipments and modern technologies are employed, but this work, the people who are operating those machines are still belonging to those castes only which have been working in those areas. This is the issue. So without taking more time in this topic, let me just give you some solution how these problems can be structurally cleared from the Indian society. Number one is, of course, the education. Number two is implementation of smart vision in such a way that we don't need scope for these areas where we need manual scavengers or we need those kind of issues. The third thing is assimilative approach. assimilative approach. Rather, assigning the jobs, identities, or whatsoever in the name of caste or what, etc., we must focus on other attributes like economy, any kind of disability, and even if the reservations are given or whatsoever, then those identities must not be declared, because otherwise it is in a way reinforcing itself in the institutions of that areas. Next is proper implementation and execution of policies, awareness programs, credit facilities for the people who are actually coming from the society or this section, and they are not given employment in other areas and they are forced to continue with this employment, that will be taken off. Here major scholarship schemes we have for 10th, 12th, etc., and also for studying abroad. Also we have the Commerce Commission. For commerce activities we have one consortium about this. So if these institutions and structure we have are working coordinatively, then definitely from Indian society we can actually be successfully taking this social level off from the society. So this is what this National Safai Karamchari, and just a glimpse of what is it and why the problems are still persist, I just try to give you on this topic. Next we have is National Disaster Response Force, NDRF. Prelims focused mostly. The Prime Minister has greeted the National Disaster Response Force team on the raising day, 19th January. Important. So NDRF was raised on 19th of January. NDRF was constituted in 2006 under the Disaster Management Act for the purpose of specialized response to natural and man-made disasters. Because disasters are two types. Out of two types, one is natural, one is man-made. Here man-made is basically the structure created by the man and the problems and mistakes committed by the man that are creating the disaster. For example, Bhopal gas tragedy was a mistake committed by man. As per National Policy on Disaster Management 2009, the state governments are also required to raise their own SDRF, that is State Disaster Response Force, for quickly responding to disasters, because state agencies are the closer one and they have to respond at the first. At present, National Disaster Response Force consists of 15 battalions from the BSF, CISF, CRPF, ITBP, mostly Central Police Forces, SSB and Assam Rifles. All the 15 battalions have been equipped and trained to respond natural as well as man-made disasters. They are also trained and equipped for response during chemical, biological, radiological and nuclear emergencies. In the beginning, personnel of NDRF were deployed for routine law and order duties also, but in 2007 it has been made a dedicated force for disaster response related duties. And in the free time, they actually work on their capacity building, creating awareness, conducting drills, and making society disaster ready. Because only the force cannot mitigate the disaster, however the effect can also be reduced by the collaboration of the government forces, personnel and the society. It functions under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Simply remember. Location of NDRF battalions. These NDRF battalions are located at 16 different locations in the country based on the vulnerability profile of country and to cut down the response time for the deployment at disaster site. Cut down the response time means the commutation and logistics. Right. So it was just point about the NDRF. National Mission on Use of Biomass in Coal-Based Thermal Power Plants. Important, very important. Environment, the first love of UPSC. Union Power Secretary chaired the second meeting of Steering Committee of Samarth, Sustainable Agrarian Mission on Use of Agro Residue in Thermal Power Plants. My God. Definition, but sorry guys, can't help it. That is National Mission on Use of Biomass in Coal-Based Thermal Power Plants. National Mission on Use of Biomass. Right? So now we have to analyze this. Ministry of Power's policy on biomass utilization for power generation through co-firing in coal-based power plants, issued in 2021 October, mandates all thermal power plants in the country to use 5 to 10% biomass along with coal for power production. Important. Because under this policy of co-firing in coal-based power plants, how much biomass is required or specified? It is 5 to 10% as per the policy. So it is important because these specific figures are generally asked. Important for your prelims. National Mission on Use of Biomass in Coal-Based Thermal Power Plants. In order to address the issue of air pollution due to farm stubble burning, stubble, we actually call it a stubble, or in Hindi we call it a purali. It is basically the leftover part from after any seed is taken out. For example, from the wheat, when the wheats are taken out, the bales left behind, the rice is actually taken out, so whatever the grass part is left behind, that all is known as parali or some kind of stubble. And to reduce carbon footprints of thermal power generation, carbon footprints meant the emission of carbon, Ministry of Power has decided to set up a national mission on use of biomass in coal-based thermal power plants. Why coal-based? Because in India the largest share of the electricity is produced from the use of coal. That is why in this area we have to work. The National Mission on Use of Biomass will have the following objectives. That is to increase the level of co-firing from present 5% to higher levels to have a larger share of carbon neutral power generation from the thermal power plants. To take up R&D activity in boiler design to handle the higher amount of silica alkalis in the biomass pellets. So it means biomass pellets we have alkalis and silica. To facilitate overcoming the constraints in supply chain of biomass pellets and agro residue and its transport up to the power plants. That means the logistics also has to strengthen. So here it is talking about the chemical composition, and it is talking about the procurement and logistics. To consider regulatory issues in biomass co-firing. Economic and environmental benefits. The use of torrefied biomass pellets in plants doesn't require extra capital for infrastructure. It also avoids the risk of loss of generation due to alternate fuel availability. Loss of generation due to alternate fuel availability, that means other than coal we can also use biomass. Decreasing coal imports will highly important because India has the 145 million tons per year surplus biomass available, which can substitute the part of the coal import, and most of the coal we are importing it from Australia. Reduction of GHG emissions. Reduction of overall sulfur and nitrogen content by 17% and 3% if coal samples mixed with 5% of biomass pellets. So GHG, that means atmosphere, it is directly benefiting with it. And one more point, why are we importing maximum of our coal from Australia? Because in India the quality of coal we have is high in ashes, that produce lots of ashes, and the moisture content is high. Right? So the quality coal we have to import from the outside, and the carbon content we have is the lesser amount, so that is why we have to keep on burning more coal is utilized and used, so that is why we actually import it from the outside. In India the coal capacity or the coal content is I think 30%, somewhere about 30%. Proven technology. Several European countries like Finland, Sweden have already adopted, so that means we have a ready-made reference about its success. Studies have indicated that emission of CO2, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, PM2.5, nitrous oxide, etc. could reduce about 6 to 14% when 10%, 10 to 15% of coal is replaced with forest residue or agricultural waste. See friends, this is actually carbon neutral thing, because what happens when a plant is grown, so the amount of coal the carbon it has absorbed, so whatever the amount of carbon it has absorbed from the atmosphere, it is actually going back to the atmosphere in the form of burning. So that is why the value remain neutral. Hence it is not adding more carbon content. That is why it is more carbon neutral area, we can actually say that. Now, ash generated at coal-fired boilers has been reported to change its pozzolanic properties, which is important in cement manufacturing, because the ash generally we have from the thermal power plants, through the process of some chemical filtration, we actually collect this ash and we use this ash for the landfill purposes. In the brick kilns, in the house manufacturing like bricks and other things, and also we can use them in the cement manufacturing. In case only 5 to 10% of agro waste is used, it may not make much difference. Minor process modification may be required in cement and brick making. Now, torrefaction. Torrefaction is a thermal process to convert biomass into a coal-like material which has better fuel characteristics than the original biomass. So this torrefaction is important for prelims, because this can ask, so what is this torrefaction? It can actually change the biomass to the coal-like material that can burn with efficiencies, right? So that has better characteristics than the biomass only. Torrefied biomass is more brittle, making grinding easier and less energy intensive. Compared to fresh biomass, storage of the torrefied material can be substantially simplified, since biological degradation and water uptake is minimized. That means the moisture content is controlled. Right? Torrefaction involves the heating of biomass in the absence of oxygen, low oxygen concentration, to a temperature of 200 to 400 degrees Celsius. The structure of the biomass changes in such a way that the material becomes brittle and more hydrophobic. Right? So that means the characteristics which makes the biomass absorb more water, and that makes the moisture available in the parts of the plants is basically resisted in this process. So it is heated, not cold storaged. These processes are generally interchanged to confuse you down. Due to the substantial weight loss and a relatively smaller loss of calorific content, the heating value of processed biomass per mass unit increases significantly in the process. Main product is the solid torrefied biomass. During the torrefaction process, a combustible gas is released which is utilized to provide heat to the process. So overall we can see that this use of biomass is not only saving the import bills, it is not only increasing the calorific value, it is not only increasing the efficiency of the product. The gases which are released from the process of this conversion of biomass into coal-like structure, the gases are reutilized in the process itself. So in a way it is a combined aspect, combined way, where everything is being used and the wastage is minimized to the minimum level, and we are getting great benefits in the environmental aspects as well. So this is an important mechanism.